about the USMCA with Alvaro Santos. He's an international law and trade expert at Georgetown Law here in Washington. He says the new agreement offers more protections for labor, foreign investment, and rules of origin. It also removes some protections for pharmaceutical companies, which he said is not necessarily a negative.
Well, that was entirely a result of the political process in the United States. It was a condition of the House, controlled by the Democrats. And I actually think that it's a positive development. I think that pharma has been overrepresented in trade agreement negotiations. They've gotten a lot of protection in the past with intellectual property rights. And so this is basically removing 10 years of protection for biologic medicines that are produced with live organisms and not necessarily synthetic compounds like medicines we're used to. And I don't think this is negative. It will actually have a good impact on an earlier entry of generic producers, and it will probably be good for consumers as well.
You are a professor of law. Talk about the legal mechanisms here, specifically the process for settling disputes.
Well, that is a big improvement. I'm referring here to the mechanisms for solving disputes between states. There was a problem with NAFTA, which was that states could block the establishment of panels by refusing to name the panelists. And this was the case, for instance, in a sugar dispute where Mexico wanted to establish a panel and the U.S. refused to go ahead. And so this is fixed now in the new USMCA, which basically means that there is a right to a panel, and that if a country has a complaint, it can bring a dispute against another of the three countries in the agreement. I think this is good news.
Mexico suffered some setbacks with the first NAFTA. It decimated parts of farming industry, for example, corn in the south. What gains is Mexico getting out of this revised version? Obviously, Trudeau in Canada claiming this is a win for his government, and Trump doing the same here in the U.S.
But I would say there are two significant improvements in this NAFTA, or two developments that could be good for the country. One is the labor law reform. I think that it's no news that there were a lot of problems with the labor law system in Mexico. There was a lot of simulation. There were protection contracts between companies and unions that were really not representing employees. So this is going to change. Workers, for the first time, will have the chance to organize collectively, to form unions, to elect their leaders in elections that would be free, personal, and direct. And I think they'll be able to bargain for better wages and working conditions. So this is a big win for Mexican workers. And I also think this will be good for companies in the mid and long term.
Following the first NAFTA, you saw in Mexico a lot of people abandoning farming jobs, for example, and moving to new factory jobs along the U.S. border. And there were social consequences for that, namely the breakdown of community in many places. Do you predict social consequences as a result of the USMCA that perhaps we don't expect will happen, but can now be something that might?
Well, it's always possible. I think that, as you rightly point out, there are always there's always losers also in trade agreements, and there's also dislocation as there's adjustment. And so I think that the Mexican government will have to be on watch to figure out how to address the potential adjustments that will follow from the new agreement. On the other hand, the productive structure of the Mexican economy has already changed to adapt to an open North American region, so I don't think that this will dramatically alter that structure. I also think that some of the things that the new Mexican government is doing, for example, the grants to the youth, sort of helping them gain vocational skills in companies is one of those programs that really could buffer the potential social effects of a new agreement and also get a new generation ready to participate in the economy.